So this is our first activity to get to know our audience today. So here are three columns. The first column is about name one interactive technique that you have successfully used in your teaching. And the second one is about the learning tool that you'd like to learn more about. And the third column is about your biggest barrier to implementing interactive element in your course. Feel free to use the plus sign right below each column to share your thought and idea and barriers. I suggest using the plus sign right below each column so your post can go to the right column. So just someone posted H5P, then I think you are in the right session today. Yeah, time is definitely one biggest barriers. I see that there are lots of interactive technique that you have used in your teaching. Google Slide, I think definitely it has been used quite a lot, especially like when we hit the COVID time. I see a lot of instructors use Google Slide to foster interaction, even in virtual sessions. Wonderful. Padlet, we are using Padlet. Great. So we are going to share this Padlet, but I see the Jamboard. Yeah, Jamboard no longer available. But like Zoom Whiteboard, I'm not sure whether you have used the Zoom Whiteboard. Whiteboard has a similar function as Jamboard. Slido, Padlet, that's wonderful. So many options. I don't know how to use it wisely. So there are excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your great thought. So let's move on to the next page. So learning outcomes. By the end of this session, I think you will be able to identify some of the UBC supported tools. So today we are going to present the Canvas tool, Canvas features, and H5P for engaging students into your course. And we are going to also demonstrate a couple of more H5P content type that you can effectively use to engage a student in your course. And you will learn how you can create, publish, and share H5P content in your course site. So we designed this session in this way. Manuel will discuss three different types when it comes down to engagement in a course design and course delivery. And then we are going to share a couple of Canvas tools. And then John will take it over and demonstrate a couple of more H5P content type that's available to you. And later, he will present how you can share and reuse H5P content type in varying the sharing platform like Canvas Learning Management System. Now I will hand this over to Manuel.
Thank you, Wilson. So this is the community of inquiry framework developed by Anderson and Archer, and it takes engagement from three dimensions or three different types. So in this case, you have one type is student-to-student interaction that can be done through discussions, could be done through group work, through different types of collaborative activities. Then you also have a different type of engagement between the instructor, so you, and the students. And then the third type, the interaction that we expect students to have with your course content. And that can be done through different ways. And this is actually the reason why we're meeting today. So then we can discuss those different ways using technology in particular. But with the content, you have a variety of ways of doing this through activities, through assessment as well. So we can move on to the next slide. So the first technology we're going to look into is the Canvas, the Learning and Management System. It is an important technology at UBC that gives you access to different tools to foster student engagement in your course. Next slide. So looking at the ways of engaging students with the content. So one aspect of this COI framework I just showed you, and I just keep it on the right-hand side corner so we have it always available for us. And on Canvas, you can do that in different ways. And I suspect some of you may have experience with Canvas, maybe completely new. You may have some knowledge of different learning management systems. But on Canvas, you have access to modules. And a module is a way to really structure your course material in a very organized way. And that's a way to kind of provide access to a page, hyperlinks, web links, or different elements of Canvas. That could be a quiz or an assignment, or oftentimes a discussion. Another way of engaging students with the content could be using quizzes. And you could potentially have a quiz at the end of a particular module, and you could structure the module per week or per themes. You have various ways of organizing this depending on what makes sense for your course in particular. So quizzes is one way, and I'll get to the quizzes in a few minutes. Another way of engaging learners with the content could be done through discussions, and that could be discussions with the entire class, could be discussions for specific groups, or for very specific tasks that you expect students to do. So we can move on to the next slide. So using quizzes, for instance, or modules to engage learners with the content. And I specifically mentioned when you create a quiz on Canvas, you have access to two different quiz engines. You have the classic quiz and you have new quizzes, and they have little differences between them. But I just concentrate on the classic quiz, for instance. So the quizzes options you have, and the interest of using quizzes to enhance student engagement with the content is that you can have frequent and immediate feedback when you provide a quiz. You can also decide the number of attempts. So if you want students to really practice with some very specific topics, you can make almost unlimited attempts and then having different types of questions showing up each time. You can also decide to let students see the correct answers. If the quiz is really set to be for engaging with the material and not having necessarily a grade at the end, that could just be something that students would benefit, seeing the correct answers, seeing the feedback, and then just practice and practice. You could also monitor student progress. And as I just mentioned, you could also use the quizzes for grades or not even for grades. Modules. Modules are important also for engaging learners with the content. You can have access to a variety of elements, but you can also add a little bit of complexity to a module. When you edit a module, then you can control the pace and access to content. You can lock certain modules after a certain time. So if you don't expect students to see the entire course material right from the start, you could just say, I want to release a module at a certain time on a given week, and you want to have control over this. Or you could also say, I want to have prerequisites. You do not access module 3 until you've done module 2, or you don't get to module 1 unless you've done the course introduction, where I provide the syllabus. I provide the very important things that I want you to be aware of before even getting started. You can have requirements, and you have different options available. I just mentioned all of them, but you have the mark as done. So basically students would just access a document or a page and then just check and mark as done and say, I confirm I've read something, or view item. So you have different features. Even the quiz completion, you could say, I don't want you to move on to the next module unless you've taken a quiz and you have maybe 80% on that quiz. So a lot of features. So on the next slide, I think I provide a bunch of screenshots. So on the left-hand side, that's a classic quiz options. So when you edit a quiz, it's always divided in two steps. So it's under the details area, and you can see you have all the options I was just mentioning. So allowed number of attempts. You can indicate how many you want them, and then decide if you want students to see the answers. And then you could also define showing the answers at very specific times. But you could also say, I don't want students to see the answers at all. On the right-hand side, this is the options for modules. So when you create a module, on the right-hand side of that module, you have a little button that allows you to access the settings, and you can see the prerequisites and the requirements and the lock until option. And then when you select this, you can indicate a specific date for students to access a particular module. So a lot of options available. Now, you can also engage students with their peers. So we've seen ways of engaging learners with the content on Canvas. Now you can use, let's say, discussions in that particular case to have interactions with the entire class or for groups of students. So that could be a focused discussions. You could have threaded discussions, student interactions, and also some group interactions. And I think on this next slide, yes, I just give you access to all the options that you've got when you create a discussion. So let's say a conversation you'd like to have on a particular topic. There is now the option of making discussions anonymous, completely or partial. You can also having threaded replies, meaning it'll just be structuring from I start the conversation, a student respond, but there is a response to a response. So there is a way of having a better sense of the dynamic of a discussion. You could also have a group discussion. So that's one of those boxes that you've got right before the view. Yes. And then you can also sort the discussions by the oldest or the newest first. So the different options. There's also a way, if you decide to grade a discussion in particular, to do not show any discussion until the students have published something. So a way of making sure that they might not be copying and pasting what another student has just said. So if you click on the graded, you would have additional options showing up. Now, Canvas is a learning management system, so it comes with its own technology. So you've got the discussions, the quizzes, the modules I just mentioned, but we also talk about integrations, so bringing other systems to Canvas, and that's the beauty of this technology. It is quite interesting in many ways. You could just say, I want to have additional features to have access to. So yeah, I just respond to Alexander. Yes, so anonymous means it's anonymous between students, but as instructor, you will always know who said what, of course. So the integrations are a way for you to expand a little bit. Yeah, you may not see that the quiz features are enough, of discussions are enough, and you might be looking for additional technology. So we have a series of integrations. So I'm going to start from the bottom left. So we have Kaltura. And on Canvas, you may have seen this before. This is basically named as My Media or Media Gallery on Canvas. So it's a way for you to upload a bunch of video files, MP4 files, audio recordings into your Canvas site. But instead of just putting it in your Canvas and make the Canvas site very heavy, Kaltura is really intended to be the place to be for video hosting and video sharing for your class. So Kaltura is quite popular. We've got Piazza if you want to have access to more sophisticated discussions. If some of you teach math formula using the LaTeX language, Piazza is quite good with this. We have an online homework system called WebWork. We also have class, collaborative learning through annotations of videos and I think PDF documents. We have iClicker Cloud. So if some of you teach in person, you want to expand engagement in a classroom, iClickers could be something you want to have access to. Then there's a software that is available through Canvas. So students click on this, can create, basically no need to create an account. They click the link and they would just be able to enroll themselves to the activity on iClicker. Then you have ways of promoting peer work or peer assessment. And you have different options. You have peer scholar. So technically, when you create an assignment on Canvas, the assignment is usually available to you, the instructor, to evaluate students. But there is also the option of making those assignments available to other students, and the students will be evaluating each other's work. So Peer Scholar is an interesting technology, very robust, and you can do quite a lot of things with this. iPeer would be used to evaluate the team members' performance. So not evaluating their assignment, but just evaluating how good of a team member they've been. So it's always done anonymously and using this technology. You have Compare, that was also based on peer assessment, and it's designed on the evaluative judgment theory. So students would just be given two assignments in parallel and just evaluate which one is better, looking at different types of criteria. So it's an interesting way of evaluating their peer work. Trying to see what else we have. And Zoom, obviously. I'm sorry, because I've got the transcript on top of my screen and it's kind of covering the last one. So Zoom. So some of you teaching virtual sessions for students, there is a Zoom integration. So students will just click that Zoom link and they can join a Zoom session. They can also join or access class recordings as well. So this one has been quite popular during the pandemic. So it's just a screenshot of how you would access all these different integrations. So when you access your Canvas course, that's from the settings area. And then you have a navigation tab. And if you click this, then you can decide to reorganize the menu items, which are on the left on that screenshot, and enable or disable some of them. So you can see those integrations will usually be at the bottom of these options. So you can drag them on top of the page to activate them in your course. And I think that's done.
All right. So H5P is not one of those learning technology integrations, but another tool that we can use at UBC, where we can design interactive course materials and embed them directly into Canvas courses. So those that indigenous ways of knowing resource and that colonial history timeline that was created, those were created using H5P. And when we think about the community of inquiry framework, student content and interaction is a key piece, as we've highlighted through some of these tools. And H5P supports this by turning maybe some of your passive content, some of your passive learning materials into active learning experiences. So instead of just reading or watching what's on the screen, students are engaging directly with the content with H5P, checking their understanding and maybe even their meaning making as they go. So what is H5P? You may have heard of it, you may have seen it in Canvas. H5P stands for HTML5 package, and it's a versatile, open source, mobile friendly online tool, which can create that rich, interactive web content, like you saw, that interactive media, the displays of content, quizzes, and games. And because it's open source, it's free to use. H5P content can be shared and reused by others, which means there are advantages for scalability and portability as an open education resource. And it can be hosted on many different learning management systems and many different websites. And the one caveat about H5P at UBC is that the only thing we can't do with H5P is we can't track it for student progress. So we can't monitor how students are using it or progressing through H5P. So how can we create H5P? So as I said, as members of the UBC community, we all have access to the H5P Open Hub with our CWLs. You navigate to h5p.open.ubc.ca. You can see a login button at the very top right. this platform gives us the ability to create our content there and then share it or embed it on Canvas or other web platforms. So could be also UBC blogs, it could be the UBC CMS, it could be Pressbooks, it could be UBC Wiki. And I see a question here because it's right in front of me. Can H5P elements have shared ownership so others have can help edit them or keep them up to date? And I believe currently there is not the ability to do that yet. But I believe that the Learning Technology Innovation Center, they're working on maybe exploring what this could look like in the future. I know this has been a request from many faculties and programs across the university to have some sort of shared ownership. And I think that is, on the roadmap, but I can't say for sure when or how that will look like there are ways to share and reuse things, and maybe I can go over that later in this demonstration. So before I was going to share this, I was going to share, sorry, I'm missing a slide in my notes, but I was going to share what some of these H5P interactions look like. So I will share this other tab here around some of the H5P content types we can create. So if you log into that H5P Open Hub, and maybe I'll open that right now. And if you click on examples, H5P examples, you can see all the different content types that are available for us to create and embed within our course. And I'm going to highlight a couple of these right now. So I'm going to go to my H5P sandbox, Canvas sandbox, where I've embedded H5P, and I'm going to showcase a couple of these examples. So content presentations, one of the more common ones. Content presentation allows for, the display of content like a PowerPoint presentation, but also enables you to embed media like audio or video, and also like some formative knowledge checks or some formative assessment. So there's this fill in the blank. There's the ability to do multiple choice. There's the ability to do these image hotspots.
Headphone.
And yeah, and this essay type interaction. And then there's this interactive video, a very common, very powerful content type that also enables you to, at various time points, add things like drop-down lists or information boxes or quizzes. I was going to show one more here. I think that was it with this example. There is a summary where you can sort of, I believe it provides a summary of the entire interaction. And I don't have it here. And then there is this question set. I don't think this is, oh, there you go. The question set's what I'm going to demonstrate in a bit, so maybe I'll go over that later. And then image hotspot, I'm hoping to demonstrate this as well. The image hotspot is simply what it sounds like, the ability to add clickable areas to a diagram or an image, and have something come up. So this can be an information box or media, as you can see here. I see in the chat, I'm noticing, can you please show us how to embed H5Ps into video on Canvas? Yes, we will show that. So moving on to the demonstration. So I'm just gonna also say this with a caveat. We're going to run this fairly quickly given the time we have today. So it's not going to be a complete holistic demonstration, and we will offer a workshop in September that goes through H5P from the very from developing it from your very concept to building it out to publishing it onto Canvas. And that is sometime in September, and we'll share the link later in the chat. But I just wanted to point out a couple of things around building H5P and just to recognize what are some of the key best practices and things to look out for as you're building these H5P interactions. And feel free to ask questions in the chats. Bosung or Manuel are happy to respond. And feel free to reach out to us afterwards if you are a little bit lost, because I know this could be a lot of information as I start the demonstration. So as I said, we create H5P not in Canvas, but on the H5P Open Hub. And I'm in the H5P Open Hub already. I'm already logged in. You probably have if you haven't logged in, if you go here, you'll probably see a login button. And once you hit the login button, you'll be taken to a dashboard, which looks like this. And might look familiar to some of you, might not look familiar to any of you, but this is actually based on a WordPress platform. So WordPress is like a website building site. But what I wanted to point out is this icon that says H5P content. This is where we're going to build all of our H5P, and where you're going to find your H5P repository. When I click on that, it immediately takes you to the My H5P content. So this is all the content that I have built, and you might not see anything in your list, but I built quite a bit because I've been demonstrating it through workshops or supporting faculty and building things. So in this case, I built a number of things, but if you haven't built anything, what you'll want to do is click Add New, or Add New at the very top here. And what you'll be taken to is this list of all the different content types that are available to us at UBC. And I say that because not all of the content types that have been built by the consortium who have been developing H5P are quite accessible. And so UBC has chosen perhaps, like I would say, 90% of the content types that have been built for H5P and made them available to us. In this case, we're building out a question set in this example. And so when I click on question set, or actually I'm going to search for question set because question set shows up for me because it's already there, but I'm going to search for it. I'm going to click details, and then I'm going to click use. So it takes you to this, what looks like a form with lots of fields, and it might look a little intimidating, but I'm going to share with you maybe in another on another screen what it will look like, what I'm trying to attempt to create. So let me just share this other screen here. So I have split my windows in half, and I want to show you this one window with the actual finished product, which is this question set. And let me just pull up something else here. So question sets like this can help organize a series of related problems for learners to tackle as a single cohesive problem rather than presenting them as several different problems. So they're particularly useful for evaluating fundamental concepts for a unit of learning or a complex unit of learning. So they could be suitable for end of chapter unit or module assessments. And you can incorporate a variety of assessment types. So as you can see here, this question set has this multiple answer, and then a drag and drop, and then this multiple choice. We're going to recreate this really quickly. I'm just going to show you how this looks like from the back end of things. So I'm going to move this slider here. And I'm going to show you this is the setup. So this is the setup of this interaction here. I have a title, and the title is important to note because you're going to want to have a title or a naming convention that is meaningful to you, and maybe even your teaching team or your unit. If you're going to be creating a lot of H5P content types or H5P in general, you're going to be wanting to name this something that is related to the teaching and learning that you're trying to produce. So in this case, I've named this, labeled this Summer Institute 2025, because this is related to the Summer Institute. I have many other workshops that where I built H5P, and they're labeled by that workshop, that particular workshop date or name. So title is going to be very important. And then what you're going to want to think about is going through each of these options one by one and just clicking on anything that you think might open. And so there's this drop-down menu for quiz introduction. And this provides like this front page for your quiz, for this quiz. And this one doesn't have anything. But you could have like a banner screen with your title and the start button. In this case, I didn't have it, so I have excluded it in this example. You can also have a background image that is consistent throughout all of your questions. You can determine what your progress indicator looks like. So these dots here, your pass percentage, so the passing score that students will have to receive to pass this interaction. And then where the meat of it is this section here, the questions. So here are the 3 different types of questions that have been added to this question set. So the multiple choice question, the drag and drop, and the other multiple choice. So the first multiple choice is the multiple answer. And I just wanted to point out also, like, you need a title for this multiple choice question, which is also going to be something meaningful to you. You'll want to label it maybe according to the module it's coming from or the section in your teaching and learning. And then you'll just fill out the blanks. So you'll have a title, but then you'll have a different, maybe it's the same words you'll use for the question itself. And then all the correct answers and distractors. So, and it's as easy as just following this. And if you click down further, you'll notice that you have an opportunity to provide custom feedback. So this is something you can consider as well, providing a little bit more interactivity to each of these answers. If I could scroll down even further, you have the opportunity to add more distractors or correct answers. You have the opportunity to add overall feedback. So within different score ranges. So 0 to 0 is wrong. 1 to 99 is almost. 100 to 100 is correct. And also the ability to do a little bit more of some different things with these interactions. So you can disable, you can enable a retry button or disable a retry button. You can have a show solution. You can randomize your answers. So what I typically like to do is I just go through these one by one and see what works. And you're not going to break anything on this platform, but you'll want to just try everything out just to see if it works for you and for your contacts. And the same can be said for like these other options here, the drag and drop. The drag and drop, you upload an image, and then with this image, you can highlight the drop zones and the correct areas. You can add alternative text, which is going to be important for accessibility. You can select all the drop zones that this answer is related to. What else is there to highlight? You can also do different feedback for different score ranges. What I am going to show you as well is you can also copy. You can also copy these questions and paste them. So it saves you a little bit on your workflow. So you can add multiple questions and start pasting them into your question set here. And continuing going down the screen, what you're going to want to do is also continue just seeing what you have available. So a results screen, a solutions button. You can relabel your text. You can have language translations as well if you need to. There's the ability to translate all the language features on the H5P interaction. So the show solution, the retry, etc. And then if I scroll up to the top, the one thing that you probably don't see, or it might be different for you, it's this create update button. And you're going to want to press create the very first time you create your interaction, because if you don't press create, it's not going to save, unfortunately. And if you don't press update frequently, it's not going to save any of your changes to your work. So make sure you create and update quite frequently as you're doing this. The last thing I wanted to show you, and it's really important, it's really key to an H5P content type, are these settings that you see on the right side of your H5P configuration window, these display options. So these directly translate into what you see on an H5P interaction. So here, if you'll notice at the very bottom of this H5P, you have the ability to reuse content. So you can actually share this file, download this file, share it with your colleague who might be teaching the same course or similar, or has similar content, and they can modify this. That is the reuse button. You have the ability to also embed this in Canvas. And when you click embed, you'll come up with this HTML piece of code. And I'm going to show you a little bit how that works in a few minutes. But you copy this essentially, and then you copy this and paste it into a Canvas page. And you can also resize the frame that it appears in. The other important thing here is this rights of use. And the rights of use is going to indicate how you intend to assign copyright to this interaction. So if you want to make this an open education resource, you can assign CC by my gosh, I'm losing my words, but you can share a Creative Commons by share alike, non-commercial. You can do different Creative Commons licenses attached to this H5P interaction, or you can just make it a copyright for yourself. And that's the way you do that is through a couple of things that I want to show you really quickly. So I've highlighted these three features right below the content type, and those are directly related to these options right here. And if you intend to share and reuse this, if you're working on this with a teaching team or across, or if you're or intending to have this reviewed by others, having this is going to be really key, having these options. So if you deselect these, you'll deselect the ability to embed or to show the rights of use or to show the reuse button. So when I talk about those rights of use, that is this button here. That is this metadata button. So I didn't show you this right at the beginning. I didn't click on this because this is something you'll always have to think about as you're creating these. How are you going to license this? So in this case, I'm going to have a Creative Commons non-commercial share alike, and I'm going to just save that, and it's available for anyone to use. But I could also make this copyright, and nobody else can use it. They'll have to contact me if they want to use this. So I'll just save that like that. And I'm going to make sure I press update. So if you notice, I've added a couple of questions here, and then the same questions that I've copied over. My rights of use, you can see that I've updated the copyright to myself. And now I'm going to show you how to embed this into Canvas. And so if I click embed here, like I showed before, if I click on this iframe code, I'm just going to copy it onto my clipboard. So Control C or Command C if you're using a Mac. Oops. C. And I'm going to go into my Canvas page. I already have one prepared, and I want to put it under here, under this title called Workshop Demonstration. So if I click Edit on my page and I scroll to where I want this to be added, I'm going to put my cursor here. What you'll see in your rich text editor is this 3 dots. You'll want to click the 3 dots, the ellipsis, and then on the very last option, there's this ability to embed code. You click on that, it looks like a cloud, and you'll just paste that code into the text field, and you'll click submit. And I will just update my screen. You can see it already in the preview that it's been embedded. And so now I have that question set at the very bottom. So when I want to update this question set, all I have to do is go into my H5P Open Hub and update this. I don't have to update this in Canvas. I have to do this in H5P Open Hub. So right here, right here. So if I wanted to edit this and want to edit one of the questions or remove one of the questions, I'm going to remove this question, for instance, confirm. And I only have 4 questions, and I click update. It's going to update automatically within Canvas. So if I refresh my screen and it gives me this warning that I've changed it, you'll notice here that there are only 4 questions. So that was a whirlwind tour of how to add a question set in Canvas. Were there any? I noticed the chat was fairly busy while I was speaking. Was there anything that Manuel Borsong, did you want to highlight from participants today? Amir, yes. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, John. Thanks for the explanation. I just have a quick question. So you had these quizzes embedded within different time slots of your video. Can you explain whether that can be done? And if so, I mean, with H5P, and if so, how to?
Yes. So really good question. That's the interactive video. Is that what you're referring to? Yes. Yes. I wasn't going to preview the interactive video today because it is quite a complex um, content type, but maybe I can show you here. I'm going to look for an example that I have, but it is quite easy. You'll have to upload the video into your H5P Open Hub. So in this case, this is a YouTube video. So you can grab the address directly and add it into the configuration. I believe it's here somewhere. I think I've already added it, but the way to add interactions is this under step 2. And essentially, you're going to the time point that you're looking to add that interaction, and it's playing the video in front of you. So I want to select this point in the video, and then you can select the type of question that you'd like to ask. So here it gives me a single choice, a multiple choice question. And it gives you the timestamps. And here you can like massage the timestamps if you don't have the correct one after you've done the scroll. And you can ask it to pause the video, which is, I think, is a good accessibility consideration. I would always pause the video so it doesn't keep playing. And then you can choose your features. So display as a button or this poster, and then the label, and then you can add your questions. And so this is a completely different interaction than the question set I showed you. So you'll just have to go into add new and then look for the interactive video. But then it gives you the same kind of options as I've shown before. The multiple choice, all you have to do is add your question, your answers, your correct answers, and your distractors, any feedback that you'd like to share. And it has the exact same sort of configurations that you will find in every type of content type when you're using H5P. I hope that answered your question really quickly, Amir.
Yes, it did to some extent. I think I have to play around with it a little bit. So
yeah, and I would just encourage you to play around with H5P. You're not going to break any systems.
Yeah. Okay.
Create, and if and we're here to support you as well as learning designers. If you want to reach out to us, we'll be sharing our email contacts. And if you want to get some support in building these and how to strategize in incorporating this into your course, because we actually have quite a bit of experience doing that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I notice we have about 8 minutes left, and I was going to show you one more.
John, if I may, I think we have a few
yeah.
questions about the display options. Did you mention the display options?
The display
How to
options.
turn them off?
Yes. So to turn this off, you would simply just uncheck these options on the right. So if you don't want this interaction to be shared with anyone, you can just simply deselect the display toolbar below content, and you can click update. And what will happen is you'll see that bottom toolbar removed once it stops processing. With videos, it does take a little bit of time. So you can see that now that those options are not available. You can ignore this error message. Sometimes that happens. If you want to deselect certain aspects, like I don't want the ability for users to download this and use it, you can deselect that. You can deselect the embed function, but you maybe want to keep the copyright button, the rights of use. You can do that as well. Yeah, it can be fairly intuitive once you start playing around. I would just say it does take a bit of time, but play around. And yes, you could definitely connect with us through email, and we can set up a consultation or another walkthrough. Just to answer the question of when you can use H5P, the University of Louisiana, I thought built out this really great framework to think about some of the content types you can build with H5P. And they've kind of categorized it into 3 different categories. Exploration types can enhance interactivity in content design, creating more immersive learning experiences. Then obviously there's the self-check ones, focus on that formative assessment. You have the question set, single choice set, hotspots, and then the composite content types, which feature H5P content types that have integrated a number of different interactions. So the course presentation has like quizzes and the display of like a PowerPoint presentation. There's an interactive video, which you saw. You can embed multiple choice and fill in the blanks and everything like that. So this is also a really good way to think about how you might do this within your course. And with a couple minutes left, as you leave, as you think about everything that we've shared with you today around Canvas tools and H5P, think about, the 1 or 2 tools that you could maybe explore a little bit more to support student engagement, to support interaction. What are they and why? And why have you chosen them? And maybe feel free to share this in the chats, or we invite you to raise your hand and come off mute. And I also want to share before we go, just these links, and maybe Bosong or Manuel can share this in the chat, because we do have a couple of upcoming workshops in September. One around designing your Canvas course. So if you're new to Canvas or you're revisiting Canvas after a long time of not using it, this might be helpful to getting started or getting restarted. We do or can go over some of the learning technology integrations that Manuel showed earlier. And then on September 16th, we are doing a studio session on H5P. And so we start from the very ground up, like I did, but in over an hour instead of just 20 minutes. And so we kind of take you step by step in using H5P and sort of all the considerations around that. All right. I think that is it. Did anyone have any sort of reflections they wanted to share with us today? I know that was a lot to absorb, especially with H5P, but we're really excited to support you through this process. If you do have ideas of what you want to build, feel free to please do reach out to Bosong, Manuel, or myself, and we'd be happy to walk you through or help you strategize through that work. Thank you. I'm just going to post this final slide in case you if you don't have the links in the chat, the events, these upcoming events are located on events.ctlt.ubc.ca. Thank you, Eddie. And we can stick around. I think Manuel and I can stick around for a few minutes to answer any other questions. And Bosung has an upcoming workshop at 3 p.m. on accessibility in course design. It's going to be a really good session. So that starts at 3.